So welcome to the National Workshop of the VIRTEU Research Project, focusing on the Bulgarian jurisdiction. I'm Dr. Costantino Grasso, and I'm Associate Professor of Business and Law at Manchester Law School, and I serve as the principal investigator of this research project. I would like to thank all the participants for getting involved in this event, which is particularly important in the context of our research project. VIRTEU is a multidisciplinary international research project financed by the European Commission. It aims at exploring the interconnections between tax crimes and corruption with the intent to reveal in-depth relations between fraudulent and corrupt practices in the area of taxation. In order to achieve the research objective, at VIRTEU, we are conducting a series of activities, such as background research, which was carried out to collect and analyze all essential information that constitute the project's foundation, interaction with high-level experts, including both our national leading experts and research associates, as well as a series of roundtables, seminars, and other academic events aimed at discussing the most burning issues that have emerged as a result of our research activities. Finally, we are organizing a series of national workshops, like just the one that we are about to begin today, which are aimed at obtaining essential feedback on the research outcomes. We're also preparing an online questionnaire that is aimed at professional experts in the subject matter, which will be sent to you at some point over the course of the next few weeks. We will be extremely grateful if you will keep just some hours of your time to go through it. Today's workshop serves a great purpose to the research project framework through a series of questions. The members of the National Expert Panel will be called upon to provide critical evaluations based on their professional experience about the relation between tax crime and corruption. The discussion will aim at shedding light on systemic weaknesses within the context of contrasting such criminal phenomena from a legal but also practical perspective. Given the lack of time and how important it is to cover all the research objectives and also to avoid running over time, I would like to ask that everyone make an effort to limit their answer time to 1 or 2 minutes tops. On that note, I would like to specify that it won't be necessary to offer the description of the regulatory framework. The work of our national leading expert for Bulgaria, Ruslan Stefanov, who is the director of the economic program at the Center for the Study of Democracy, already fills in those gaps. If necessary, you may reference to relevant piece of regulation, and you can always send us the related supporting material, which we will review in the context of research. For that very reason, I would like to ask that you provide precise and concise answers in order to offer the necessary critical analysis to tackle and identify the specific issues addressed in the questions. During the actual debate, it won't be necessary for all the experts to contribute to each and every question. Please feel free to intervene where you believe it is important to share your knowledge and professional experience with us. The discussion will be divided into 2 parts, lasting roughly 1 hour each. The first part, the first 6 questions, will be moderated by the project's co-investigator, Dr. Lorenzo Pasculli, who serves as the Associate Head for Research at Coventry Law School. Then, after a short break, I will take on the second part of the discussion, from question number 7 to question number 12. Now, I would like to introduce our panel of national experts in alphabetical order, and I would like to thank them again to be with us. So we have Vera Denizova, journalist at Capital Weekly, Bistra Nikolova, Chief Assistant Professor at the University of Economics, Varna, Petya Staneva, Chief Revenue Expert at the National Revenue Agency, Petar Sankov, State Revenue Expert at the National Revenue Agency. In order to make the experience even more valuable, we invited other panel members, which is the panel of the expert associated with the research project that will interact with the national experts for the mere purpose of stimulating and supplementing the discussion. I shall go ahead and introduce the panel of experts associated with the project, again in alphabetical order. So we have Daniela Mineva, Senior Analyst at the Center for the Study of Democracy, Ruslan Stefanov, VIRTEU National Expert for Bulgarian Director of the Economic Program at the Center for Study of Democracy, Kristina Sabala, Intern at the Center for the Study of Democracy, Sunny Susanes, Intern at the Center for the Study of Democracy, and will soon join us Dr. Donato Vozza, Protax Research Associate in Economic Crime at the Center for Financial Corporate Integrity of Covent University. The project experts, unlike the members of the national experts panel, won't actively participate in the discussion, but they will get involved by asking national experts some additional questions when needed. This way, we will be able to enrich the discussion while abiding by the time restrictions we have set ourselves. Basically, after the analysis of each research objective, the moderator will ask the project experts if they wish to intervene in order to stimulate further discussion or clarify key points. I would also like to thank Engin Erken and Stephen Holden, who serve as research assistants within the project VIRTEU and are today with us, and they are currently PhD candidates at Covent University. Finally, I would like to thank most sincerely the Center for the Study of Democracy, and in particular its director, Ruslan Stefanov and Daniela Mineva, for co-organizing this event with us and for their fantastic support. A final note on GDPR, I would like to thank all of you who have already provided us with the signed filming and photography consent form. If you can please send the form to us at your earliest convenience, this will be really appreciated. Anyway, your participation in today's session entails your implicit consent to the publication of the recordings, as well as extracts of it on websites, online platforms, and social networks used by the research project or by third parties with whom we have established a partnership. I will now give the floor to Dr. Pasculli to begin the debate.
Thank you, Costa. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I really appreciate this opportunity of a nice conversation on the tax and tax prevention law in Bulgaria. So the first question, I will go straight to the point because we have a lot of questions, so we won't waste much time. The first question is about tax offenses in your jurisdiction. So what we want to analyze here is particularly the type of crimes that the law defines as tax crimes, but also the ways in which these crimes are perpetrated, particularly in a transnational perspective. So the main question is exploring the phenomenon of tax crime in your jurisdiction. What are the most specific questions to this big question? First of all, what behaviors or practices are criminalized in your jurisdiction as tax offenses? Secondly, what tax crimes are the most frequently perpetrated in your jurisdiction? Thirdly, what transnational tax crimes most frequently involve Bulgaria, but also what foreign countries are involved in tax crimes committed in Bulgaria? And finally, what are the most relevant tax crimes in your jurisdiction in terms of overall amount of tax evaded, taking into account both domestic and transnational tax evasion schemes? So I will leave the conversation open for 5-10 minutes. Try to answer all these questions. You don't have to answer, each of you doesn't have to answer all these questions, but at least some aspects. So let's start with what tax offenses are criminalized in your jurisdiction. Who wants to answer?
Just maybe, Lorenzo, just to stimulate the discussion, maybe I should add that we will not treat any of the answers as representing any institution, and people shouldn't be afraid about, kind of going, by the legal definition. It's rather the experience everybody has in these answers. And I understand that it's, essentially we have 4 people here that we expect to answer, and I know that Bistra Nikolova, of course, is an academic, and also Vera as a journalist could help us gain a a wider perspective, of course, but Petr Tsankov and Petya Stanova from the National Revenue Agency, in particular, they shouldn't feel like this. I mean, this will be their personal opinion, not necessarily, kind of leading to the opinion of the Revenue Agency. Just to know that.
Also, thank you, Ruslan, that's very important. But also, as you've seen from the questions are very general. So they will give you the opportunity to target your answer. You don't have to be necessarily super opinionated. You can stay on a fairly abstract level. So this question particularly, what are the tax crimes in your jurisdiction? So what crimes are considered tax crimes in your jurisdictions? We can start perhaps with just a short list just to get an idea, and then we go more into the practice of it or the details. Bistra, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I'm okay now. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. I'm sorry that we don't have present here someone from the Ministry of Interior or someone from the prosecution office, because we are not specialists in that. You know that the National Revenue Agency has no powers in the criminal proceedings, and that's why we are not, let's say, great specialists in the area of penal process. But nevertheless, I could say that the crimes, the tax crimes in Bulgaria are related with evading taxes, with not declaring, with using falsifying documents, with using false accounting and something like this. But I shall say again that I'm not a great specialist in this area.
Thank you, Peter. I think this is more than enough. What we need, as Costa said before, is not that you come here to explain the law. It's just to give us an idea, to start the discussion, and then from the discussion, extract your personal experience, as you said. It's not about answering all the questions in a legalistic way. If you say, you know what, we don't deal with that because there is a national prosecution agency that does this for us, that's a good answer in itself, and that helps us understanding. I think Bistra was also trying to answer.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm also not aware. I'm an economist, but I want to try to explain my opinion about first question. I think there is a separate chapter 7 in the Penal Code, crimes against the financial, tax, and insurance systems. If an analysis of the provisions of the Penal Code is made, it will be established that, in fact, only cases of non-declaration and non-payment of taxes are considered a crime. But if the taxes are declared without being paid into the budget, this is not considered a crime.
Interesting. So is it quite a restrictive approach, you mean?
Yes.
Interesting. Any other experiences on this? So do you think there are too little crimes, tax crimes in your jurisdiction? Too few, perhaps?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, because my internet has broke again?
Sure. So Bistra was suggesting that in the criminal code in Bulgaria, tax offenses are only considered the offenses that concern non-declaration of taxes or non-payment of taxes. So she was suggesting that this might be a bit restrictive, and perhaps we might need more offenses. I don't know. I'm just throwing a suggestion following the question.
I really don't know. I mean, the question is not. I think that the regulation of tax crimes is it's okay, I think, but the measures for implementing of that regulation in practice, I don't think that we have a good communication enough between authorities. There is a lot of restrictions of exchanging of information between authorities, especially the regime of revealing of tax information. It's quite restrictive. For example, the prosecutor should have notification from the court, special notification to get tax information. Only the chief prosecutor of Bulgaria can get tax information directly. If I'm a prosecutor, to start with the process of researching of starting criminal proceedings, I should have enough information, and this information quite often you can find in the tax administration, but you can get it from tax administration quite easy. If the tax administration is, let's say, active enough, tax administration could notify the prosecution office and could send him the relevant information. But these are the cases when the tax administration is active, and when the tax administration reveals the reasonable grounds for suspicious that there is a tax crime, and when tax administration gets the initiative to inform the prosecution office. But if I'm a prosecutor, and after some I don't know, some kind of criminal actions, I found some information that maybe there is a tax crime, for me will be quite hard to get information. I should go to the court and ask exactly what kind of information should be reviewed, but sometimes I don't know what kind of information I want to get and want tax administration to review, because I'm not quite let's say familiar with administrative proceedings and documents that they are produced in tax administration and so on. So we have a lot of let's say constraints before effective cooperation between institutions. And these are just the Institute of Tax Information, of revealing of tax information, is just example. I mean, we don't have the other problem, of course, is that we don't have prosecutors that they are specialist in this area, because tax area, it's quite complicated. You should have special knowledge, special you should have even special education sometimes, but it's quite different, and it's quite hard when you compare criminal proceedings when you have a robbery, for example, or homicide or something like that. It's completely different. And I don't think that the prosecution office has enough prepared prosecutors for this. I know that they trying to reach some achievements in that area, because they have some kind of trainings on tax material laws, but I don't think that with training in 2 or 3 days you can be a specialist in that so complicated area of knowledge. And these are a lot of I don't think that that is crucial for the success of the criminal proceedings, especially in this case, is regulation, is the law. I mean, we have some provisions in the law. These are provisions. Maybe they are not quite good, but maybe they are good. We don't know, because we don't have great experience on that. I mean,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, maybe it's too long.
No problem. You jumped already to other points in the next question, so I will keep some of the questions for later, so we can encourage participation. But it seems to me that you're saying the list of tax offenses is quite fine. The real problem is procedure and the prosecutorial powers, or the powers of exchanging information. I have a couple of questions on this, but we'll come back to this later in the right question, so the others can participate. So does anyone have an idea of what crimes are the most frequently perpetrated, tax crimes, of course, in Bulgaria? And if so, what are the kind of transnational context? What are the states involved? Is there a number of states that are particularly involved in tax crimes in Bulgaria? Is Bulgaria particularly involved in tax crimes abroad?
Okay.
If there is no particular indication of this, we can move on. Any idea on the tax crimes that are more impactful in your jurisdiction in terms of amount of money evaded? So what are the crimes that are most important? Is that tax evasion? Is that failure to declare? Is that falsification of declaration? Do you have any ideas about that?
If it's possible, I can express my opinion according to the issue, and I will try to share with you in chat, because I include them in order of priority, in my opinion, of course.
That's very helpful, thank you. I'm copying that in my notes so I can see them better. So Bistra says, in terms of priority, keep accounts in violation of requirements of the accountants legislation. So basically wrong accounts, concealing or failing to store accounting documents, again, something related to accounting and documents, use of a document with incorrect content, and failure to issue an invoice or other accounting documents, deduct or non-following tax credit, confirm untruth or conceal the truth in submitted declaration, failure to submit a declaration, or illegally prevents a revenue body from fulfilling its legal obligation. So there is a variety here of behaviors. I think this is very interesting. So do you think this particular order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, is the order of seriousness, I mean, of harmfulness? Is that what you're saying?
It's my opinion, but I'm scientific now. I have previous experience in tax administration as a tax inspector, but it was many years ago. And right
Okay.
now, maybe my colleagues from National Revenue Agency can
Yeah,
explain.
that'd be great. Any other ideas?
Okay, it's me again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The most perpetrated tax crimes are related with MTIC frauds. I mean, in my practice, you know what is the MTIC frauds? The fraud scheme with missing trader. This is the relation with the next question with transnational tax crimes. One of the most often one of the cases that you can find most often in our practice is tax crimes related with intra-acquisition fraud. You know, this is the just like MTIC fraud, but you have international element and you have acquisition from another member state of European Union. And we have a missing trader in the beginning, and broker, the man who takes the money in the end of the chain. This is this is the most often scheme used in the area of VAT. Especially when we talk about the direct taxes, the most often tax crime that you can see, this is the evading taxes, of course, with a lot of different methods of evading taxes. Because sometimes they use falsified documents. Sometimes they just don't show the deals that could be a subject of a taxation. Yeah, but this is just in general. My opinion on most frequently perpetrated tax crimes in Bulgaria.
Excellent.
Of course, we haven't some kind of, let's say, big schemes when we have some kind of multinational companies and let's say offshore zones and things like that. But it's not so common. It's not so often to see. This is quite rare.
So it's more small size crime.
Yeah, the small size is something like evading taxes and participation in MTIC frauds, but just to get some money from that. You are not an organizer, but you are agree on that. You should see the indicators that there is a tax crimes, but you just close your eyes and say, okay, I just want some money. But the organizers are someone other, not you.
I'm taking note. Good. So second question, moving on from the list of crimes or the most important crimes. The second question is related to something that actually Petra was mentioning before, which is the complexity of the legal system. So the adequacy of legal definitions, regulation, legislation, and so on and so forth. What we will ask you to evaluate is to give us an assessment of the legal framework that is related to taxation and tax offenses, and particularly to assess its efficiency in addressing illegal tax practices. So the first question is about the complexity of the tax system in your jurisdiction in terms of regulation. How complex is tax regulation in your country? And do you think this complexity can facilitate tax offenses? Is tax regulation too difficult to understand, too complicated? Does it require too many obligations, burdens?
I don't know. I mean, no, I don't think that the tax system in Bulgaria it's quite different to understand. I mean, for example, if you get someone from away from here, for example, if you get the tax system in USA, this is a really a very strong complex system. I mean, you have a lot of cases. You have a case law. Sorry, that's my phone. Yeah, you have a case law. You have a law regulation. You have cases of the judge, and you have many sheets of instructions of IRS. I was completely amazed when I get familiar with this system. This is the in my opinion, this kind of system, especially when we have a case law, just like in Great Britain, just like in USA, this is a example of a tax system when we have very hard to be understand the tax system. I mean, in Bulgaria, you have laws, you have ordinances, and that's it. I mean, you have some kind
I think we lost Peter. So I think the message he was telling us is that overall
interpret the law. Yeah. Yeah.
We lost you for a second.
Yeah. Okay. Where?
You were saying that in Bulgaria you have laws and ordinances,
Yeah.
but that's it, and then
okay.
we lost you.
Yeah, we have a court decision, interpretive court decision from the law, but they are not so many in the area of taxes. And if we have guidelines from National Revenue Agency, but they just clarify the law. They do not interpret the law. And we have a very good dialogue with taxpayers. If someone has a question or someone want to clarify the law, everyone could ask the tax administration, and tax administration will provide the answer. Yeah, of course, during the years, we can see that tax system becomes more and more complex. I mean, more and more different to be understand. But this is because we have a lot of new things that should be regulated in the law, a lot of new economy relations that should be somehow taxed, and that's why this is the reason when we have more and more different to be understand tax system. But I don't think that this is the real reason the law to be not executed as the way that should be executed.
That's a very good answer.
Yes.
Thank you, Peter. No, it's very clear. Was there someone else who was about to intervene? No, I heard a voice, but that's probably just in my head. Okay, how would you assess now the complexity, not anymore of the tax system, but of the criminal law related to tax crimes in your jurisdiction? So, for instance, how many different crimes there are, how difficult it is to provide evidence, what are the evidence standards and requirements, but also how complex or difficult to read are the legal definitions or contradictions in the law or any conflicts in the law. So is the criminal law of tax offenses clear, or is it too complex and obscure?
Yeah, okay. Hello. We have only let's calculate it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. We have just 8 provisions that provisions regulated tax crimes. I mean, it's not a big deal. Definitely, you can say that penal code is quite, let's say, penal code is not quite elaborative in this area. With this only 8 provisions, we regulate all the tax crimes in Bulgaria. Of course, I'm not, let's say, I'm not quite familiar with the process of collecting documents and relevant information in the criminal proceedings. Searching, seizing, tapping, monitoring, this is not my area, of course. I couldn't say to a relevant opinion on criminal proceedings, but on material criminal regulation, I couldn't say that they are quite hard to be understood. They are quite simple. I don't think there is some kind of obscuration there. Everything is okay.
So do you think that this is also... Yeah,
I'm just speaking about the penal code, not about
yes,
the penal
yes.
proceedings code.
Yes. And do you think then, and perhaps Bistra, you have something about this, that this is not the reason why there is lack of... So you don't think that it's too difficult for taxpayers to know what the tax crimes are? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, maybe. It's not my area, of course. Maybe the prosecution office or Ministry of Interior or someone else, I don't know exactly who, should provide some, let's say, information campaign or something like that. I don't know, to provide information to the taxpayers. Okay, guys, you should be aware there is a provision 255 in the penal code, and according this provision, you should be aware about. I don't know exactly how to be undertaken this, but something like that. I don't know, but definitely it's not quite hard to understand the penal code and the provisions of the penal code related with the tax crimes. Tax and insurance crime.
Thank you. Bistra, did you have anything to add?
Thank you. I want.
Oh, you're on mute.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay. I want to add something regarding the legal definitions related to tax crimes. In the penal code, there is no definition of tax fraud, and this term is not used, but only the term document with false content is used. We have not legal definition about tax fraud in penal code, I mean.
Okay.
But
Do you think this?
I
Yeah.
express this opinion based on my scientific work. I'm not with juridical education.
Yes, of course. Do you think the lack of a definition of tax fraud can compromise effective punishment? Do you think the lack of definition of tax fraud can prevent effective punishment of people who's responsible?
I think so. I think so. But not only definition is the problem. My colleague Peter Zonkov explained very well. It's necessary good communication with taxpayers according tax crimes.
That's very good. Thank you very much. We'll get to that as well, because we do have some questions about other measures.
Yeah, just to add something. Of course, my colleague is right that it's good to have a definition of tax fraud, but the tax fraud should be used as a legal term. I mean, in the provisions of the penal code, you don't have opportunity to see tax fraud as a phrase. There is no tax fraud. There is a different characteristics of the tax fraud that are reason to someone to be convicted, but
We lost Peter again.
Yeah, I think we lost him again.
yeah, okay.
I think we lost you just at the final sentences, as usual.
Yeah, okay. Maybe maybe the regulations should be clarified somehow, and I'm not expert in this. Maybe should be expanded in some way. Maybe tax fraud should be included somehow in this definition, but now with these provisions, we don't need the definition of tax fraud.
Yeah. Okay, that's very clear. Now, final couple of questions about this, and then we'll move on to the next three questions. Is you told us that you're not experts in criminal procedure, but in general, do you think that Bulgarian criminal law is good enough to support investigation and prosecution, or do you think that Bulgarian criminal law actually can compromise investigation and prosecution? Do you think it works?
Yeah. As you mentioned, yeah, I'm not expert in this area, but especially in the proceedings, maybe the process of collecting of evidence, it's quite formal. I'm not quite sure that it's true, because I suppose that I'm not supposing. I heard that from my colleagues from the prosecution office, that they complain that the process of collecting evidence is it's too formal, it's too hard to get information, but I don't think that this is the real problem. The real problem is that they should spend a lot of time they should spend a lot of efforts in these proceedings. Sometimes proceedings they should be quite prolonged, something like year or 2 years. Maybe this could be a problem because the penal proceedings court don't give enough time for such long proceedings, because they should be quite well prepared. Sometimes you need tapping of monitoring and things like that to get the information about the where they hide the black accounting system, something like that, to understand relations between the tax fraud scheme and something like that. Maybe this should be the problem. I'm not quite sure, because, for example, my colleague from Litva, they presented success story. And this success story was that they created they created a special trader just to be involved in the tax fraud scheme, and they tapped and measured the telephone calls and blah blah blah, you know, just like in the movie. And this was for 2 years. I mean, they 2 years they research all the evidence, all the places they could find evidence. They get all the information about all the participants in the scheme. They even get the garbage from the offices and you know, glue the documents that were destroyed, and sometimes this is the way how to combat.
So, Peter, if I understand, then the problem is not the regulation in itself, but perhaps the lack of a specialized body that can conduct prosecution and investigation in such a thorough way.
Absolutely. And in my opinion, one of the way to overcome this is to provide powers to the tax administration to conduct criminal investigations, because we have expertise on that. We know how they evade tax law, and we should be just trained in the criminal proceedings.
That's very good. Thank you very much. Okay, now we are done for this question. I would like to apologize with the panel, the project experts, because I didn't ask them to intervene after the first question. Do you have any questions for the experts about questions number 1 and 2?
Not really anything specific. I was just wondering if, for example, Vera, who is a journalist, could give us her view of how this, I mean, which are the tax crimes that come on the journalist's radar screen. I mean, if there are any. I mean, sorry for calling that like that on you, but if you have any kind of like in the past 2 or 3 years, you know, whether there have been any such crimes coming on your radar screen, you know, and as a journalist, that will be quite interesting, you know, in terms of just very general. I mean, if at all. I mean, it might as well be that you didn't come across any.
Hello from me. Yes, maybe the most interesting cases are in the public are connected with so-called the straw people in VAT tax fraud scams, or some that are connected with, but we cannot say if it happens or not, but some crimes that are connected with corruption on some political level. Maybe these are the most interesting cases.
So
medias, yes?
Yeah, so there is a particular attention on tax in connection with tax crimes in connection with corruption then.
Yes, this is the most interesting, but most recent case, it's a bit hard to say, to point some specific one.
Okay. We might come back to this later, Vera, because we do have a bit more specific questions about the interconnections between tax and corruption.
It will be interesting for me, yes. And about the regulations, I can say what, again, what is interesting for the media, we had one example connected with regulation, connected with reporting, turnover, cash, registers and software for sales. The National Revenue Agency had new regulation that was very, very hard to complain for the businesses. But at the end it was cancelled, but it's some example for some not very easy to regulation that can be complained by business, and that the problem was that more businesses said it is impossible to make it working. So yes, it's just an example.
Why do you think businesses say that? It's too expensive, it's too difficult?
It was too expensive, too difficult, and they said it's some of the regulation that are wanted are impossible to be provided from the software business for the others who use it. So that was the case in general.
This is, Lorenzo, I had forgotten about this, but this is a very good case. It was the regulation 8 number 18, I believe.
Yes, H number 18.
Yeah, H18. I'll probably look into that and create a box in the report. Thank you, Vera. I think it's a very good point. I mean,
yes,
it's a really good, as well as the straw people, where people, well, essentially the problem of transferring companies to people that are that doesn't have enough income. I mean, companies with a lot of tax debt, let's say. But that's very. Thank you, Vera, for mentioning these. I think this is important.
Excellent. This is very, very good point, actually. I really appreciate this. We'll come back to some of these aspects later as well. Other questions from the project experts? No? Okay. Let's move on to questions 3, 4, 5. We are going to analyze this together. It's a rather long set of questions, but they're bundled together. This is why they're long. So now this question concerns particularly the relationships and the development of the different stages of the action and the response to tax crimes: prevention, investigation, enforcement, sanctions, recovery, and other remedy. So from preventing to investigating and prosecuting to punishing and recovering. What we want to do in this area is to explore the possible shortcomings, the flaws, the deficiencies of the legal system that may facilitate the commission of tax crimes and compromise the implementation of a response. So we want to understand how adequate is the legal framework related to all these stages. The first question is about prevention. I think both Bistra and Peter before mentioned something about education, awareness rising. So the first question is, apart from criminal law, so let alone criminal law for a moment, is there a legal duty for the public administration in your jurisdiction to adopt non-restrictive measures to prevent tax crimes and related corrupt practices? And if so, can you tell us what this is? Or if it's not a duty, is there any guidance that encourages the public administration to adopt any preventive measures? So is there a duty to adopt non-criminal preventive measures?
No, I don't think that there is a, let's say, obligation according the law to provide society with with preventive measures, but this is part of our work. I mean, a preventive measure is not only providing of information. For example, preventive measures is that measure that Vera mentioned. This measure with this ordinance was this was special software that everyone that could provides sales from the sales point, and should have special software in order to be declared in the fully all the sales from this sales point. I mean, this is preventive measure as well, because this works against tax crimes, against evading taxes, and against unfair competition. Because the main problem is not, of course, that someone gets money from the budget. The main problem is that someone gets unfair advantage because he is not good on the market, but because he's lying and he's stealing money, and because of the restaurants, in the end, all the people were provided with that software somehow or some way, and in the end of when we were in the process of ending of this measure, that measure was revoked. I feel sorry about that, because that was quite good measure. Even it was some kind of burden for the businesses, but this is the way to provide fair competition and to clean the economy from evading taxes. Of course, not 100%, but in quite good way.
So, Petar, for what I understand, these measures are mostly what we would define situational, meaning that they try to stop opportunities for tax crimes. Is there any broader measures, such as, for instance, education campaigns, communication campaigns, or, for instance, training of particular officers?
Yes, we have that kind of measure. We have a monitoring on the central level of some of, let's say, some of wild traders, let's say in this way. And when we get information that wild traders are part of empty fraud, unaware of that, I mean, they are not organizers, or and we have suspicion that they are part of empty fraud, because they are quite unaware of way of working of empty fraud. We sent a letter, informative letter, to this trader. Sometime we organize a meeting with this trader, and we suggest him to organize some kind of risk analyzing of deals in order to prevent stepping in the schemes of tax fraud. And this is the way of yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, this is the way to communicate this problem with the taxpayers. Sometimes we have more broadened information campaigns. We send, let's say, letters to with the email, using email via email to many taxpayers with some kind of information that should be aware of something that is a risky indicator or something like that.
Excellent. I saw that Bistra had a hand raised. Did you want to add something, Bistra?
Yes, if it's possible.
Yeah, sure.
I think in recent years, the National Revenue Agency has conducted a number of free trainings and seminars, which are promoted via the internet and YouTube, to explain tax and social security obligations and relevant changes in legislation. And I agree with my colleague Peter Tsankov, but I want to add something to this topic. Because I'm a teacher in State University, something in this area, there is a need to improve, in my opinion, of course, there is a need to improve the quality of curricula and teaching in public universities in the disciplines related to financial and tax control. In recent years, there has been a serious decline in the quality of teaching in the field of control in some public universities. I think it's very important for good combating against tax evasion also.
So education, particularly higher education, as an instrument of prevention. That's great. Now, the next question is procedures that allow leniency or any other favorable treatment. So as you know, many tax system allows for concessions, amnesties, exemptions, reduction of taxes that would have been due, that the taxpayer should have paid, but on a retrospective base, the state just pardon these people or allow some benefit and so on. So what is the situation with respect to this instrument in Bulgaria? And if you have these kind of instruments, do they facilitate tax evasion and tax crimes, and do they compromise prosecution? So in Italy, for instance, it's very common to have the practice of cancelling the tax debt of some people after a number of years. Do you have something similar in Bulgaria, or there is no mechanism to afford this kind of cancellation of the debt?
Yeah, but I mean, this is not related with the it's not on the tax inspector, for example. I mean, this is related with the statute of limitations. I mean, when you have 10 years with the tax debt, which is not collected, the tax debt just is terminated. It's it's objective. I mean,
yes.
The waiver of punishment, some kind of making debts, tax debts more in amount, in or something like that. It's considered like quite risky, because it's decision of the tax inspector. It's on a public official to take decision on that. and this is considered like a risky factor for corruption. And in fact, we don't use that kind of instruments of our legislation. I'm not.
Oh, you don't have it. So
yeah, we don't have it. We don't use it, and we don't have it. No, yeah, you're right. We don't have it, and that's why we don't use it. In fact, I think that these instruments are quite. Let's say they make the situation more flexible.
yes.
But we don't have it.
Okay, that's good to know.
Unfortunately, I mean, no, yeah, but it's good when because it could be considered like a good point when we talking about corruption, because they couldn't be used for corrupted practices.
Okay, but if you don't have any instruments to waive completely the debt or the punishment, do you have any instruments to still facilitate the payment of taxes? For instance, payment in installments or payment with properties instead of money. So say that a person owes you, I don't know, $10,000, whatever that is. Instead of paying in one go, you ask them to dilute the payment in different installments, or you ask them to give you their car. I don't know. Is there any other alternative way to repay the tax?
There is some other ways of, for example, to be paid in not full amount, but to be paid partially during the period of time, something like that. For example, especially in the penal code, I think that there is a provision that if you pay full amount of taxes that are evaded, you don't go to jail. You don't have imprisonment. I think that that was in that way. I just will check it. Yeah, we have that kind of instruments, but you don't have a right to pay with your car, for example. This could be this could happen only in when you don't have opportunity to pay, and when the public officials go to your premises and take your car, and they will make estimation of your car, and they sell your car on the market, but not directly. We can take your car directly, and we can say to you, okay, your car is, for example, €1,000. We will now you will pay with your car €1,000, and we will get your car. No, the car should be sold on market. It's quite complicated.
Yeah, it's similar to other civil law jurisdictions. So basically, it's not an option for the taxpayer, is the coercive procedure that follows the lack of payment. But what about, you mentioned before, reduction of the debt, so partial payment or waiver of prosecution in case of full payment? Isn't there a risk of bribery here of the officer that can allow the reduction of the debt? Because you said before, well, waiver of tax debt.
Okay. No, the clear answer is no, because we have a very strict and detailed procedure, and we have a few conditions in the law. When you objectively when you execute objectively these conditions according to the law, you have a right of a reduction of full payment, and to pay in a longer period of time.
So basically, it is connected to objective elements.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is not discretional.
Yeah.
That's very good. Very interesting. Feel free to intervene. Otherwise, I will go on with the next question.
Can I add something?
Absolutely, yes, Daniela, go for it.
I was just remembering that we introduced this reduced 9% VAT tax for hotels, restaurants, catering services, entertainment facilities as a COVID-19 measure. So maybe this reduced VAT tax could provide some form of risk. For example, some typical trade activities could be miscategorized as, let's say, catering, or it's not really clear how to differentiate between the 20% and the reduced 9% tax. Maybe we can discuss that.
That's a very, very good example. Thank you so much. Thank you, Daniela. Moving on, we have quite a bit of questions, so I need to be a bit quicker. So reports of suspicious activities. Do the report submitted by the tax administration to the prosecuting authority contain sufficient elements? Now, from what I remember from what Peter was telling me, there is no obligation for the tax administration to submit these reports. Or is there? And if so, what are the elements? Are these elements sufficient? Are these elements insufficient? Should they be broader? Should they be shorter? I think you're on mute.
Yeah. No, I'm okay now. Okay, just to clarify something. I mean, not we are obliged to provide information for when we have information that there is a reasonable grounds for we have a reasonable grounds for suspicion that there is a tax crime. But I mean, it's not objectively. I mean, when I'm a tax officer, I have administrative proceedings. I see some things, but sometimes I could take decision. Okay, these things are something that reminds me of a tax crime. I should notify prosecution office. But sometimes I get decision. I got decision. No, it's not enough. I don't think that that there is a reasonable ground to think that there is a suspicion. I mean, you can, of course, you can create a list of indicators, but more or less this is a case of estimation, of subjective of estimation of someone who in proceedings. I mean, to take decision to notify the prosecution office.
Very important.
Yeah.
No, this is very important. And do you think when the report is sent to the prosecution, do you think the reports are generally exhaustive and sufficient, or do you think
yes,
they could be?
Think yes, because this is the way to stop proceedings. And when you have a lot of proceedings, and when you are quite overloaded with work, it's a good way to stop your proceedings, to send the notification to prosecution office, and to stop proceedings and to wait for the answer from prosecution office. It's quite often used instrument from tax administration. I mean, just because this is the way to be more freely on work. I mean, because it's quite often tax inspectors to be overloaded with revisions and checks and things like that, all the audits, and yeah, they use it. They do not let's say that they do not hide. And I think that we have internal instructions that provide all the tax officials with with list of documents that could be provided with this notification. And they have an example of notification, and they have a procedure for notification of prosecution office. I think that they are quite good in this way.
Good, excellent. Now, I will bundle two questions. First of all, what are the main problems in enforcing anti-tax evasion and anti-corruption laws in your countries? And how would you assess the deterrent effect of the punishments that are currently in force? So, first of all, is enforcement good? And secondly, are the sanctions effective and sufficient?
Yeah, the main question is not about the sanctions are sufficient, but where the sanctions are, let's say,
Effective.
Yeah, no, that everyone could when everybody who involved in tax crimes should expect it, have to expect that should be sanctioned on that. I mean, it's a question of effective imposement of sanctions of on the perpetrators. I mean, it's no way to sanction, no use sanctions to be heavy on to be very strict and things like that. The most important thing is execution of the law in so good and so strict way that everyone that is involved in tax crimes should expect that he will be identified as perpetrator, and he will be sanctioned on that. I mean, this is the most important thing from in my point of view.
No, definitely, but are the sanctions effectively implemented in Bulgaria, or do you think there's more work to be done there?
I think that yeah, this is the some of the regulations are in what was the sanctions are sanctions like sanctions for heavy crimes. I mean, these are exact sanctions. These sanctions are heavy enough. They just should be quite in a good way and in effective cooperation between institutions. They should be imposed on the perpetrators. This is the most important.
Thank you very much. So moving on, we have really a couple of minutes, so I will ask you to be very short on these questions. First of all, how would you assess the remedies to recover tax? And apart from getting payment from the taxpayers, are there any remedies? I don't know, compensation orders, any compensation of damage to the state? I don't know. What are the remedies and how would you assess them? If there is no specific expertise in these, we can move on. We don't need to discuss everything as we said before. Before moving to question 6, project experts or project panel, do you have any questions about this set of questions on alternative remedies to criminal law? No, good. Moving on, final, yeah, no questions. Final question, research objective is to assess the vulnerabilities of specific economic sectors. So what I would like you to point out is what are the 3 most vulnerable sectors to tax crimes and corruption. So both of them. Some examples are provided in the paper: constructions, communication, education, energy, farming, financial sector, health, hospitality, manufacturing, technology, retail, or science. What of these sectors, or any other sector you may think of, are the most vulnerable to tax crimes and corruption, and what are these vulnerabilities? And if you can give some examples. Great.
I can share the public point of view for the sector.
Yes, please.
So it's the construction sector, the retail sector, not the whole retail sector, but the small and medium enterprises, and maybe the hospitality and leisure sector, specifically in Bulgaria. But I think the National Revenue Agency has more observation, which are
good. And what do you think are the main vulnerabilities? Why these 3 sectors are the most vulnerable?
The first one, the construction, is connected with VAT evading, because it's very, how to say, it's very easy to evade it in some point of view, and because the VAT tax that must be paid is very big, so you have how to say, stimuli to evade it if you can, in general. And the other 2 sectors, they're connected with they are small businesses that more easy can evade the taxes if they can, and it's connected again with sometimes they don't have choice, because that makes them not so they cannot concurrent with the other small businesses. If they invade taxes, the others are obliged, they should do the same, or they won't have enough profits to survive. It's the public opinion, of course. It's what the media point of view.
But that is very interesting, because I think this connects very well to something that Peter suggested before, which is basically that competition sometimes is a drive to commit tax offenses, because, of course, it's all about trying to make money, right? And if tax offense is a shortcut, then it is quite welcome. Okay, from the point of view of defenders, of course. Now, final word to the project experts. Any questions on vulnerabilities before we conclude this first part of the session and we have 10 minutes break?
I don't have any.
Thank you, Razlan. Okay, no questions, so we have 10 minutes break. I think we can start at 1:43, Costa. What do you think?
I think yes, let's have 10 minutes break. Thank you very much for the fantastic discussion, and let's reconvene. Thank you very much, all of you. I will pause the recording now and we'll start again in 10 minutes. Let's have coffee, tea, whatever we want.